There comes a quiet moment in every life when the noise inside the mind grows louder than the world outside, when doubt begins to whisper like truth and fear dresses itself as reason. You may smile for others, carry on with your duties, yet within you a storm churns, restless, uninvited, and heavy. But hear this gently and clearly. Your mind was never meant to be a prison of toxic echoes. It was meant to be a place of clarity, of creation, of calm power. And today, right here in this moment, you stand at the threshold of something greater. The choice to release what poisons you and reclaim the quiet strength that has always lived within you. The mind is not a battlefield, though many have learned to treat it as one. It is not a place where you must wake each day prepared to fight yourself, to wrestle your thoughts into submission, to exhaust your spirit before the day has even begun. No, your mind is a garden, tender and waiting, shaped not by force, but by care. And whether you realize it or not, you are the gardener who chooses what is allowed to take root. Every thought you entertain is a seed. Some arrive quietly, carrying hope, patience, and possibility. Others slip in uninvited, wrapped in doubt, fear, and old wounds that have not yet found their rest. The danger is not that these seeds appear. The danger is in how long you allow them to stay, how often you return to them, how faithfully you water them with your attention. For what you nurture will grow, and what you ignore will, in time, lose its hold. Too often, people pour their energy into the very thoughts that weaken them. They revisit past failures as though they are permanent truths. They replay hurtful words until they echo louder than any kindness they have ever known. They feed the weeds, not because they want them, but because they have grown used to their presence. And in doing so, they begin to believe that this overgrowth is all their mind can ever be. But a garden does not become beautiful by accident, and neither does a peaceful mind. It requires intention. It asks for awareness. It demands the quiet courage to pull out what does not belong, even when it has been there for a long time. And yes, there will be moments when the weeds seem endless, when doubt returns just as quickly as you try to release it. Yet every time you choose not to give it your energy, you loosen its grip. You must learn to pause before you water every thought. Not every feeling deserves to be fed. Not every fear deserves to be believed. There is a quiet power in stepping back and saying, "This does not serve me," and letting that be enough. In that space, something shifts. The soil of your mind begins to change. What once felt overwhelming starts to soften, making room for something new to grow. And as you become more mindful of what you plant, you will notice a gentle transformation. Clarity begins to replace confusion. Focus finds its way back to you, not as something forced, but as something natural. The noise does not disappear all at once, but it loses its authority. It no longer commands your attention in the same way. In time, you come to understand that peace was never something you had to chase. It was something you cultivate. And just like any garden, it flourishes when you give your care to what truly matters, when you stop feeding what was never meant to stay, and when you trust that even the smallest seeds of calm and strength, once nurtured, can grow into something far greater than the chaos you once believed defined you. There is a quiet deception that often slips into the human mind, a voice so familiar that it begins to sound like truth. It tells you that your worst thoughts are a reflection of who you are, that the doubt you feel is your identity, that the fear you carry is your nature. And over time, if left unchallenged, you begin to wear those thoughts like a name you never chose. But you must come to understand, with a steady and unshakable knowing, that not every thought that crosses your mind belongs to you, and certainly not every thought has the authority to define you. Toxic thoughts are not born from your strength. They are echoes of past wounds, learned fears, and moments when life felt heavier than your spirit could hold. They arrive unannounced, sometimes loud, sometimes disguised as caution or realism. They tell you that you are not enough, that you will fail, that you should not try. But these thoughts are not facts. They are visitors, shaped by experiences that have already passed, carrying energy that does not deserve a permanent home within you. The danger lies not in their arrival, but in your agreement with them. The moment you begin to believe every negative whisper, you give it space to grow roots. You allow it to settle, to decorate the rooms of your mind, to sit at the center of your decisions, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to live according to something that was never meant to lead you. But there is power in recognizing this pattern, in seeing that you have been hosting thoughts that have no right to stay. You are not required to fight every toxic thought, nor must you silence them with force. There is a gentler, stronger way. You can acknowledge their presence without offering them your belief. You can let them pass through you like wind through an open field, noticed but not held. In that simple act of awareness, you reclaim something vital, your authority over your own mind. It may not happen all at once. There will be days when those thoughts return with familiar persistence, knocking on doors you thought were closed. But each time you choose not to identify with them, you weaken their hold. Each time you refuse to call them truth, you create space for something clearer, something kinder, something more aligned with who you truly are beneath the noise. And in that space, a new understanding begins to take shape. You start to see yourself not as the voice of doubt, but as the one who hears it. Not as the fear, but as the one who can rise beyond it. That distinction changes everything. Because once you realize that toxic thoughts are only passing guests, you stop building your life around them. You stop giving them your future. In the end, your identity is not written by the loudest voice in your mind, but by the choices you make about which voices to follow. And when you choose not to follow the ones that diminish you, you begin to step into a quieter, stronger truth, one where you are no longer defined by what tries to break you, but by what you decide to become. There is a quiet mastery in learning how to step back from your own mind, to stand at a gentle distance from your thoughts instead of being swept away by them. Many people move through life absorbing every feeling, every fear, every passing doubt as though it were a command that must be obeyed. A single negative thought arrives, and suddenly it colors the entire day. A moment of uncertainty appears, and it grows into a story that feels too heavy to carry. But not every thought deserves that kind of power, and not every emotion must be held so tightly. To witness your thoughts is to recognize that they are not you, but something that moves through you. Like clouds drifting across an open sky, they come and go, changing shape, appearing dense one moment and dissolving the next. Yet the sky itself remains untouched, vast and steady beneath it all. You are that steady presence, not the passing storm. And when you begin to see this clearly, something within you softens. The urgency to react fades, and in its place comes a quiet awareness that allows you to simply observe. This is not about denying what you feel or pretending that your thoughts do not exist. It is about changing your relationship with them. Instead of pulling every thought close and examining it until it becomes overwhelming, you learn to let it pass without attachment. You notice it, you acknowledge it, but you do not give it the weight of your identity. In that small shift, there is great freedom, because the moment you stop absorbing every thought, you stop allowing them to control the direction of your mind. There will be moments when the storm feels strong, when thoughts come quickly and carry an intensity that is difficult to ignore. In those moments, the instinct may be to fight, to push them away, or to silence them entirely. But resistance often gives them more strength. What you resist can persist, growing louder the more you try to force it out. Instead, there is power in stillness. There is strength in allowing the storm to pass without stepping into it, without claiming it as your own. You can sit with your thoughts as you would sit by a river, watching the current move without trying to control its flow. Some thoughts will be gentle, barely noticeable. Others will rush by with force, pulling at your attention. But you remain where you are, grounded and aware, choosing not to be carried away. This practice may feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable, but with time, it becomes a source of deep clarity. As you continue to witness rather than absorb, you begin to notice the space between you and your thoughts growing wider. In that space, your focus strengthens. Your mind becomes less crowded, less reactive, more intentional. You are no longer at the mercy of every passing feeling. Instead, you become the quiet observer, the one who chooses where to place attention and where to let go. And in that awareness, something powerful takes root. You realize that peace is not found by controlling every thought, but by no longer needing to. You discover that you can experience a storm without becoming it, that you can hear the noise without losing your center. And in doing so, you step into a calmer, clearer way of being, one where your mind no longer overwhelms you, but instead becomes a place of quiet strength and steady focus. There is a quiet misunderstanding that has lived in many hearts for far too long, the belief that holding on is a sign of strength and letting go is a form of defeat. People cling to pain as if it proves their endurance, as if carrying old wounds somehow makes them stronger, more resilient, more worthy. They hold on to past mistakes, broken moments, and words that once cut deeply, thinking that to release them would mean those experiences did not matter. But strength has never been measured by how tightly you hold on to what hurts you. True strength reveals itself in the moment you decide that your peace is more valuable than your pain. It shows itself when you loosen your grip on what no longer serves you, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it leaves an empty space behind. Because letting go is not about erasing the past. It is about refusing to let the past control the present. It is the quiet decision to say, "This may have shaped me, but it will not define me." There is a certain courage required to release what you have grown used to carrying. Pain, in a strange way, can become comfortable. It becomes a story you know, a weight you have learned to balance, a familiar presence that asks nothing new of you. Letting it go, however, asks you to step into uncertainty. It asks you to trust that there is something lighter waiting for you, even if you cannot yet see it. And that trust, that willingness to move forward without the weight, is where your true power begins to unfold. You must understand that holding on to toxic thoughts does not protect you. It only prolongs your suffering. Replaying what went wrong will not change the outcome. Revisiting every hurtful moment will not heal it. It only keeps you anchored to a time that has already passed, draining your energy and clouding your focus. But when you choose to release, you are not denying what happened. You are simply choosing not to live there anymore. Letting go does not happen all at once. It is not a single decision, but a series of quiet choices made again and again. Each time the memory returns, each time the doubt rises, you gently remind yourself that you do not need to carry it. You allow it to come, and then you allow it to leave, without holding it tighter than necessary. And with each small act of release, the weight begins to lift. There is a freedom that comes when you stop gripping everything so tightly. Your mind becomes lighter, your thoughts clearer, your focus sharper. You begin to see possibilities where there was once only heaviness. You begin to move with a sense of ease that was not there before, not because life has suddenly become perfect, but because you are no longer burdened by what you were never meant to carry forever. In the end, letting go is not a loss. It is a return to yourself, to your peace, to the quiet strength that has always existed within you. It is the understanding that you can honor your experiences without being bound by them. And when you truly embrace this, you rise, not by force, not by struggle, but by the simple, powerful act of releasing what was never meant to weigh you down. There is a quiet force within you that shapes the direction of your life more than circumstance, more than chance, more than the opinions of others. It is your focus, the place where your attention rests, the thoughts you return to, the meaning you assign to each moment. Many search for freedom in distant places, in changed situations, in the hope that one day life will feel lighter. Yet they overlook the simple truth that freedom begins in the mind, in the ability to choose what you give your energy to and what you allow to fade. Your attention is not small or insignificant, it is powerful, deliberate, and deeply creative. Whatever you focus on begins to expand, to take up space, to shape how you feel and how you move through the world. When your mind lingers on doubt, doubt grows louder. When it returns again and again to fear, fear begins to feel like truth. It is not that these things become more real, but that they become more familiar. And familiarity has a way of convincing you that something must be important simply because it is often present. But the same principle holds a quiet promise. When you begin to direct your focus with intention, everything starts to shift. When you choose to place your attention on what strengthens you, on clarity, on purpose, on what can be built rather than what has been broken, you begin to create a different inner world. And from that inner world, your outer life begins to take shape in ways that once felt distant. This does not mean ignoring difficulty or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means refusing to let them dominate your attention. There is a difference between acknowledging a problem and living inside it. One allows growth, the other keeps you still. Focus gives you that distinction. It allows you to see clearly without becoming consumed, to respond without losing yourself in reaction. There will always be distractions, thoughts that pull you backward, worries that try to drag you into a future that has not yet arrived. They will ask for your attention, sometimes loudly, sometimes persistently. But not every call requires an answer. Not every thought deserves your time. Each moment, you are given a quiet choice, to follow what drains you or to return to what steadies you. And this choice, repeated over time, becomes your path. The more you practice guiding your focus, the less control those scattered thoughts begin to have. Your mind becomes less crowded, less reactive, more anchored in what truly matters. You begin to notice that you are no longer being pulled in every direction. Instead, you are moving with intention, with clarity, with a sense of quiet control that does not need to prove itself. Freedom, then, is not found in escaping the world, but in mastering where your attention lives within it. It is in realizing that while you may not control every situation, you can always influence the lens through which you see it. And when you learn to place your focus wisely, you begin to experience something profound, a life that is no longer dictated by distraction or fear, but guided by purpose, presence, and a calm, unwavering sense of direction. The past has a voice that can be very convincing, a voice that often sneaks into the present without warning. It comes as a memory, a regret, a familiar ache, and it whispers that you are still bound by what has already happened. You may hear it in the quiet of the night, in the silence between tasks, or in moments when you least expect it. And if you are not careful, you begin to answer it as if it is still the truth, as if yesterday's pain still carries authority over today. But the past is only powerful when you give it permission. It cannot speak unless you invite it in. Every time you dwell on what has already occurred, you give your energy to something that no longer exists. You replay arguments, mistakes, and losses in your mind as though by remembering them, you can somehow change them. Yet in truth, the events themselves remain unchanged. Only your perception, your focus, and your peace are altered. When you invite old pain into the present, you allow it to shape your emotions, your decisions, and the way you carry yourself. You build invisible chains from memories that are no longer relevant, and those chains can weigh heavier than anything happening right now. Letting the past remain in its rightful place does not mean forgetting or pretending it did not happen. It means recognizing its limitations, seeing it clearly as a story that has already been written, and refusing to let it dictate the pages you are writing today. There is a freedom in understanding that yesterday does not have the right to control your voice, your choices, or your presence. You can honor your experiences without allowing them to imprison you. You can remember without reliving, reflect without suffering, and learn without being bound. The mind has a habit of returning to old wounds because they are familiar. Pain, in a strange way, can feel comfortable. It is known, predictable, and even shaping. But comfort does not equal nourishment. Comfort does not equal growth. Every time you allow the past to speak uninvited, you forfeit a piece of your present power. You allow yesterday to rent space in the very moments that are meant for your life today. But when you start saying no, even silently, to the intrusion of old pain, you reclaim that space. You reclaim the energy that is rightfully yours, and you begin to experience life with a clarity that was previously clouded. There will be times when memories surge forward despite your efforts, when the echoes of old hurt are strong and persistent. But in those moments, remind yourself that you are not required to give them a seat at your table. You can observe the memory, acknowledge its existence, and choose not to feed it. You can allow it to pass like clouds across the sky, impressive perhaps, but powerless to define the weather within you. When you stop inviting the past into your present, something remarkable happens. The weight begins to lift, and the mind finds space to breathe. Your attention is no longer stolen by events that have already unfolded. You can move through life with clarity, respond with intention, and cultivate peace where there was once regret. The past may remain part of your story, but it ceases to be the author of your present, and in that realization, you find an unshakable sense of freedom and strength. Beneath the chaos that constantly surrounds us, beneath the whirlwind of thoughts, the clamor of doubts, and the storm of emotions, there exists a quiet, unshakable part of you. It is the part that has always been there, even when the noise seemed louder, even when fear seemed insurmountable. You may have forgotten it at times, buried under worries, regrets, or the endless chatter that life throws at you. But it has never left. It waits patiently for you to remember that you are more than the turbulence inside your mind. The mind is often the loudest critic in our lives, whispering lies dressed as truth. It reminds you of every failure, magnifies every insecurity, and questions every step you take. It tells you that you are too small, too weak, too unworthy. And when you allow these thoughts to dominate, the chaos feels endless, as if there is no solid ground beneath your feet. But you are not defined by these voices, nor by the temporary storms that pass through your consciousness. You are the awareness that witnesses them. You are the calm presence that remains even as the storm rages. It is important to understand that being bigger than the noise does not mean the chaos disappears. It does not mean that fear, doubt, or pain will vanish entirely. These things will still arrive, sometimes unexpectedly, like waves crashing against the shore. But when you know who you are beneath it all, you realize that the waves cannot sweep you away. You stand firm, rooted in a quiet confidence that is not dependent on circumstances or outcomes. You recognize that the loudest voices are not the ones that determine your value. They are only passing echoes. To connect with this unshakable self, you must practice returning to it. Every time the mind pulls you into worry or self-criticism, take a step back. Observe the noise without identifying with it. Watch it rise, watch it fall, and remind yourself that it does not define you. In that space of observation, you reconnect with your true self, the part that is calm, that is steady, that holds a quiet strength beyond the reach of fleeting thoughts. It is patient, resilient, and always present, waiting for you to step into it. When you learn to live from this part of yourself, life begins to shift in subtle but profound ways. You are no longer tossed about by every fear or doubt. You respond instead of reacting. You act from clarity instead of confusion. Your energy is no longer drained by every passing thought, and slowly you realize that the noise is just that, noise. It may exist, but it no longer controls you. You are bigger than every thought that tries to diminish you, bigger than every fear that seeks to bind you, and bigger than every voice that questions your worth. Beneath the chaos lies your calm, powerful, unshakable self, a self that cannot be destroyed, diminished, or shaken by the world outside or the storm inside. To remember this is to reclaim your life, to walk with confidence, and to move through each day knowing that no matter what comes, the strength within you has always been enough.